at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel. Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I
feel. Welcome back to the Prophecy series. Although this time around, it's a different prophecy to the last films, so maybe they should just call the series A Prophecy from now on. But anyway, let's get to the real reason this film was made, the return of Gabriel with The Prophecy 2. We begin the film with a new main character, Valerie, on her way to work at the hospital. Which is lucky because... The guy's quickly taken to the hospital with him telling Valerie not to be afraid. He also has a scarred symbol on his neck, so it's clear he's an angel. We then move to a monastery where one of the monks is shouting that Gabriel is coming, and as the others open the door, they find the place covered in Bible pages and the monk lying on the floor. And that would be Thomas Daggett, the main character from the last film, who's decided to stop being a cop and doing good things in the world, and become a monk isolated from it. That doesn't really sound like the same character to me. Especially because the war from the last film is still ongoing, so there's no reason he would just change his stance. And as you'll see, it would have been better if Daggett wasn't in this film at all. And then in the city, Lucifer himself appears, sadly not played by Viggo Mortensen, and he's on Earth to let Gabriel loose, because...
It's time for you to go, Gabriel. This is not my war, and hell isn't big enough for both of us.
He killed Gabriel last time because he didn't approve of the war. Now he doesn't care, apparently. That's a disappointing change in attitude. But anyway, the ground melts and splits open in actually a really good effect, and Gabriel climbs out, looking at the camera as if to say...
You on?
Back at the hospital, Valerie gets talking with the guy she hit, apologising for hitting him, and he gives her his name of Daniel, spelt D-A-N-Y-A-E-L, because it wouldn't be an angel's name without weird spelling. And outside, another angel is perched on the opposite building watching what's going on, so there's a plot afoot. We shift to Daggett to see how pointless he's become. He's busy praying, but Gabriel shows up for a chat, because Daggett has been getting visions of this movie's prophecy. And Gabriel wants to know who he saw in his vision. And naturally, Daggett doesn't give him the information he needs, so Gabriel just sets him on fire. Yeah, this is why I said it was better him not being in this film, because another character could have had the prophecy and then get killed. Gabriel was enough to bridge this film's continuity with the last one. They didn't need to shit on the previous film for no real reason. It's a real shame. But let's continue. At the hospital, Valerie is visiting Daniel again and he's showing off to the kids. Isn't there something in the Bible about not showing off with godly powers? I think Jesus was quite specific on that rule, regardless of how much of a parlor trick it may seem. That night, Daniel is let out of the hospital and walks Valerie home, but instead of getting a kiss goodnight, Daniel gets kind of uncomfortably close to her, and then they go inside for some sex. Now, either Valerie is pretty loose, or Daniel straight up used some kind of mind manipulation to get her in the sack. Also, what was one of the facts we learnt about angels in the last film?
He's also hermaphrodite.
Oh. Yeah, shouldn't that have been something pretty damn difficult to explain? Either that or the sex really was that damn good. After the sex, Daniel goes back to wherever he's staying and talks to his superior. He tells him that his task is done. How cold and clinical for him to say that. It would be quite inappropriate for a love interest to develop between him and Valerie after that, wouldn't it? Yes. Also, a little bit of a spoiler here, but Daniel's task was to get Valerie pregnant so that she would give birth to a Nephilim, a human-angel hybrid, in the hopes of bringing the two warring factions together. So the first film dealt with Gabriel and his ilk's plan, and this film is dealing with the good guys' plan to end the war. And it's clear that the plan is almost as duplicitous as Gabriel's was. I like that, because it shows that both sides, in the end, are as bad as each other in some ways. And while they talk, outside another angel comes down itching for a fight, as they both sense him, and Daniel immediately jumps out of the window to start fighting in the streets. And then the other guy, seemingly for no real reason, jumps through a boarded up door to start fighting another angel. There's some fighting, but the guy runs off upstairs, smashing through another boarded up doorway, and then leaps onto the adjacent building. I guess he just wanted a venue change. The guy pulls a knife out as he slashes the angel up, and then pulls the guy's heart out, killing him. And Daniel manages to kill his angel too. These evil angels are pretty crap, aren't they? While they're out of their hideout, Gabriel shows up to look for clues, finding a dry cleaner claim ticket, which he can't resist tasting for some reason. But anyway, Gabriel gets to the roof and snaps the angels back almost immediately, and tells Daniel that all's forgiven if he tells him where Valerie is. But Daniel runs off.
Don't walk away!
That'll tell him, Gabe. Gabriel talks with the other guy, revealing he's named Raphael, but it doesn't really matter at this point because Gabriel kills Raphael pretty quickly. Personally, I think Raphael, who's considered to be a high-ranking archangel, needed a bit more than just showing up and dying immediately, but you know, that's just me. After the kill, Gabriel goes to the dry cleaners to get Valerie's address for some attempts at out-of-place comedy, considering he just ripped someone's heart out. Gabriel asks the guy to get him Valerie's address, not knowing what a computer is. Eventually, Gabriel gets sick of the guy and knocks him out, like he does, and tries using the computer himself. Yeah, I'd do that too if my computer made weird duck sounds. I really wish they hadn't done this stupid fish out of water thing. Fortunately, Gabriel never stares at a TV wondering how they got the people on the little stage, but it comes close to that kind of stupidity. It never came up in the last film, it's just out of place. At Valerie's home, she's being cared for by her grandmother, not liking being waited on, and the grandmother tells her that she thinks she's pregnant, which Valerie checks at the hospital, and she is indeed pregnant, and is actually in her second trimester, so it's one of those rapid growing babies too. Gabriel needs a hand with computer skills, so he's watching a couple who are about to make a very poor life choice. They are Izzy, played by the late Brittany Murphy, and Julian, who you'll recognise if you've ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And they plan to essentially drive headfirst into a wall as some kind of suicide pact.
Are you ready?
Ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, me too. So they successfully kill themselves in that ridiculous manner, and Gabriel goes down to inspect the bodies, finding the guy not usable, but Izzy is. As Gabriel resurrects her, giving her the greeting you'd expect after coming back to life.
Hi. Nice hair.
And he rather indelicately tells her that the guy's taken a dirt nap, which causes her to cry as he takes Izzy with him. One thing I do like about this film is that it goes into the relationship between Gabriel and his resurrectee a lot more in depth, which is good because the last time they weren't in the film long before they died, so we'll get a lot more time to explore the subject here. Elsewhere, Valerie has been called to the morgue to inspect a dead angel because someone saw Daniel killing the guy. I don't know why they show a witness a dead body instead of questioning her. However, the coroner from the first film appears and recognises the body as an angel. He takes Valerie into his office to warn her to forget everything she's seen, because everyone involved with the last angel ended up dead, except for himself, not that he's worried. He mentions Daggett, but tells Valerie not to get involved, so of course she will now. Outside, the bodies are being moved in a van, but Gabriel's got other ideas, as he casually says hi to the driver before going to the back of the truck, saying a quick prayer, and then the truck goes up in flames in spectacular fashion. And just as she was unequivocally told not to, Valerie's gone to Daggett's monastery to find out what's going on. She shows the monk Daniel's symbol, and he shows Valerie Daggett's notes on the subject of angels, which is actually where he wrote down his prophecies, and it mentions the Nephilim that Valerie now has inside her, which seems to convince Valerie of what's going on. Back with Gabriel, he's having Izzy use the computer to get Valerie's address. And is the dry cleaning guy still knocked out or even dead on the floor? How has no one noticed that yet? Valerie goes home finding the door open, and inside she finds her grandmother on her bed, who's actually dead, because Gabriel got there first and killed her, which is pretty damn cold, I gotta admit, mainly because it wasn't necessary at all. And Gabriel is perched there lying in wait for Valerie. He starts throwing her around a bit, and then Daniel jumps through a window. Seriously, can't these guys use doors? Gabriel and Daniel start fighting as Valerie runs off. However, it's clear that Daniel is completely outmatched, as Gabriel just picks him up and impales him on the bedpost, and then runs after Valerie. And yet, Gabriel doesn't kill him, despite Daniel being the only thing to come close to being able to stop him. There's no reason he wouldn't just tear his heart out and then go after Valerie. Well, except to extend the movie in a rather lazy way. Gabriel gets Izzy to chase after Valerie, and they catch up to her pretty quickly as she jumps over a fence to avoid the speeding car and getting into a backyard with a barking dog. which when Gabriel gets Izzy to back into the fence, he specifically tells her,
Try not to hit the dog.
a rare moment of compassion from Gabriel while he's trying to mow down a woman with child. How bipolar of him. Valerie's cornered in a dead-end alley with Izzy protesting murder, but Gabriel tells her to do it or wish she had. But she rather cleverly buckles her seatbelt, so that when the car hits the wall, with Valerie managing to get out of the way, Gabriel goes through the windscreen, knocking him out temporarily. And Izzy tells Valerie to run while he's unconscious. And then she's subsequently knocked out by Daniel. I like how Izzy is a lot more proactive as a lackey than Gabriel's last two, who are only concerned about their own deaths. It's possible that's because she's new and hasn't been broken down by years of servitude, but even Amanda Plummer's character wasn't like Izzy, so it's a nice change to see a lackey take charge. Daniel has taken Valerie to a church, of course, where else would he go? And she wakes up finding Daniel waiting for her. She wants to know who he is and to explain himself, which it probably would have been better to ask that before the sex, but never mind. Daniel tells Valerie about Gabriel and what's going on with the Nephilim, but she doesn't believe him, so he just decides to show her instead, as he unfurls his wings. Although the film rather cleverly doesn't let us see, cause it would diminish the impact if we saw crappy CGI wings. Back with Gabriel, he's busy being questioned by the police about the car rampage, and again, he gets his mind blown by the cop's walkie-talkie.
May I ask, you fellas use that to what? Talk to each other?
Yeah, what are you, high? It's a radio, yeah.
Miracle.
Why is Gabriel so enamored by technology? He's been dealing with humanity for as long as we've existed. Why isn't he losing his mind over the horseless carriage that goes vroom? At what point does he consider technology a miracle? Does he stand in front of automatic doors for hours watching them open and close? It's inconsistent just to have this fish out of water joke that really doesn't make sense in the scheme of things. Gabriel goes to a coffee shop where Izzy's waiting for him and he asks her how to use the gun.
Quiz. How do you make that work? How do you use that?
Gabriel, giving a suicidal person a gun, not the best idea, I feel. Jesus! She didn't even hesitate. However, wasn't the guy in the last film shot dead? What constitutes death for Gabriel's lackeys? Granted, Izzy shooting herself was shocking, but it's a little inconsistent. But maybe that's because the whole scenario hasn't been explained thoroughly, so I'm only guessing. Izzy pleads with Gabriel to let her die, but he starts burning her hand and telling her to follow him or there'll be more pain. So maybe that's how he got the others to be compliant. Back in the church, Daniel tells Valerie she needs to see Michael, another angel, but he doesn't know where he is. And Valerie mentions Daggett's prophecy book, which could help them find Michael. So Daniel tells Valerie that she'll be safe in the church as he goes to get the book, tripping the church alarm as he does like an idiot. The police are right on it, which Gabriel hears over the radio and goes off to the church. Daniel has gone to where Valerie's car is, which is now a crime scene, but it's not a problem.
Sir, please go to the other side of the...
It's okay.
See? Easy. You know, it's getting kind of ill-defined what angels can and can't do. In the last film, Simon didn't really seem all that powerful, but Daniel can come and go as he sees fit. It's not even the fact that he can do that I'm questioning. It's more the fact that Daniel's powers seem born out of plot convenience than any kind of thought for his character's abilities. And despite Daniel telling Valerie she would be safe in the church, Gabriel bursts in through the doors looking to kill her. Daniel's really not a good guardian angel, is he? Valerie is hiding from Gabriel and he searches while intimidating her and telling her that her son is too dangerous. And honestly, at this point, I realise that there isn't many badass Gabriel moments in this film. He doesn't give any kind of don't fuck with me speeches. It's really disappointing. Gabriel finds Valerie, to be honest she wasn't being particularly stealthy, and he drags her outside by the hair no less. But he's greeted by a street full of cops, and Izzy gets proactive again.
No, wait.
Ha! Police gunning down a surrendering man, as if that would happen in reality. Yeah, this is nothing like reality. Gabriel actually had a gun. And while Gabriel's being shot with extreme prejudice, Daniel runs in saving Valerie, but dropping the prophecy book in the process. He really does suck, doesn't he? Gabriel's body has been taken to the police morgue as the coroner steals his coat, which is quite tasteless. and Izzy is being questioned by the police, but before any answers can be given, Gabriel wakes up, either knocking out or killing the cops, and then casually walking out of the station with Izzy while reading the book. He also now knows that Daniel and Valerie are actually going to Eden.
This is it? This is Eden?
What man has made of it?
Yeah, why not throw in some subtle as an H-bomb social commentary? That won't seem out of place at all. Even though man isn't supposed to be able to enter Eden after the whole kerfuffle with a snake. So I don't know how they managed to set up factories there. And why is Eden in America? Daniel and Valerie are let into Eden and the place is full of angels. I guess the people building the factories just didn't see them. And why no female angels anyway? Oh wait, hermaphrodite. They're both male and female technically. Valerie is taken without Daniel to see the angel Michael, played by Eric Roberts, who gets pretty high billing for what amounts to a small cameo. Meanwhile, Gabriel shows up at the gates, also asking to speak to Michael.
Don't eat that.
Trust me.
Okay, that was actually pretty good. Clever reference there, Prophecy 2. Valerie asks if Michael can protect her, and he says what amounts to, I don't know. Very helpful indeed. Michael speaks with Gabriel at the gate, comparing him to Lucifer, which he is quite insulted by. Michael tells Gabriel to give up his crusade or face a worse punishment than he's got before. But then Michael just lets Gabriel in and says do what he likes. Nobody's gonna stop him. Again, angels, man. Not so good at the guarding part. Daniel tells Michael that he will protect Valerie even if it means disobeying him in the process. But it's not like he's actually gonna do anything. Michael's that sit back and watch kind of angel. Daniel gets Valerie to run as he faces off with Gabriel. Gabriel tells Izzy to kill Valerie for her freedom while he fights with Daniel, and this time at least Daniel actually puts up a relatively decent fight, but he's still quite quickly killed off, and is again ultimately useless. What a great character he was. Izzy catches up with Valerie, but instead she attacks Gabriel, who throws her against a piece of metal, killing her. That was it? She has this whole character build up throughout the movie, and she's killed just like that? Well, that was a fucking waste. You know, maybe Izzy could have actually helped defeat Gabriel with Valerie, and as such, dying as he's defeated, giving her character some kind of arc and resolution. Because this is pathetic, and Izzy's character deserved a much better send-off. What a disappointment that was. Valerie starts fighting Gabriel, attempting to use the knife given to her by Izzy. Gabriel just grabs her hands and throws her away though. Valerie gets cornered by Gabriel but makes the jump to a swinging platform, which really should be having some kind of epic sword fight on it, but anyway. Valerie asks Gabriel when he last spoke to God, getting visibly choked up. And Valerie tells him that it's not that he doesn't speak to Gabriel, it's that Gabriel isn't listening. Which honestly makes sense, and the revelation that Gabriel being ignored by God was actually his own doing is pretty clever, turning Gabriel's confidence in himself and his cause on its head, making his hubris his own worst enemy. Valerie then tells Gabriel what God's telling her, which is to jump, and she does, pulling Gabriel down with her, as they have a slow-motion fall, ending with Gabriel getting impaled on a fence. Valerie is of course completely unharmed. God knows how that happened. Ha! See what I did there? But Gabriel is still alive, as Michael gives him his ultimate punishment. And it's actually a quite clever one. He has now been made human, and I assume without the spike in his gut, because that would be quite the short punishment. Valerie tells Michael that she's going to raise her child and won't let the angels take him from her, for better or worse, but she won't let it bother her decision. The movie then skips 5 years into the future, as Valerie's son is seen taking the bus to school. But as an added extra, we also see Gabriel, now a hobo, accepting soup from a passerby, with him muttering,
Phone's gonna ring. It's gonna be you know who. Everything's gonna be made right.
With Gabriel's character in that state, it's actually really clever, because you can see with him accepting the soup, he's learning humility and what humans are really like. Of course, he's still clinging to the hope that he'll be reinstated, but it's Gabriel, that's how he is. However, outside of that ending, what did I think of The Prophecy 2? In all honesty, The Prophecy 2 is nowhere near as good as the first film, which it pains me to say because of the high hopes they first gave me. The story is pretty lackluster with not many standout moments, and the characters are nowhere near as interesting either. The only character I was invested in was Izzy, But like I said, she was totally wasted by the end. And even Christopher Walken, despite how great Gabriel was in the first film, seems to have lost some of his edge for this film. There's much less of the bravado and don't fuck with me attitude, which is replaced with out-of-place fish-out-of-water comedy and him constantly failing. This film's not awful, it's watchable, but it really has lost some of the magic that made the first movie special. And don't even get me started on the killing off of Daggett's character for no fucking reason. That just pisses me right off. So yeah, not a good sign for the series if this is what it pulls out after only its second attempt. But who knows? I'll keep my spirits high for the third film gaining back some of that magic. It could happen. So until then, see you next time.